Okay, so you got your jig all powder coated, it's cooled off. Next step is to go ahead and put the blade on there. I'm using copper blades. Can't get that with a Z-Man, can you? Copper blades work so good in stained water. Anyways, what we're going to do is you got 3 holes right here. The 2 elongated holes are for the snap that actually you tie your line onto, and the top hole is the one that's going to go through your hook. So you slide it under that gap you made. Like I said earlier, you're going to just kind of rock it back and forth, try to get any kind of little bitty pieces of paint off that might have got stuck on there. It shouldn't be much if you followed the steps earlier. It's not bad. Alright, and now we've got to close that gap up. What I use is a vise. Just going to kind of just put the edge of the hook in there, the hook eye. We're going to tighten it up. Take it kind of slow. Tighten it up until that hook eye is right back on that jig head like it was supposed to be. And there you have it. Once you got your blade on your bladed jig, the next step that I do is I go ahead and put some eyes on it. I'm using these 5/32 ghost lure eyes. Now these eyes are sticky, but I don't really trust it. What I do is I take some super glue, I put me a little dot of it on something, piece of paper, then I take the tip of the super glue,
just the tip
itself, and just get a little bit on there and just touch it where the eye is going to go on each side. This keeps you from putting like way too much, squeezing it out of the tube itself. Alright, then get your eyes, pop them on there. Alright, now our lure has eyes. Oops. Stayed on. Super glue. Alright, we're going to let this dry for a minute or so, and then we're going to paint it up a little bit, make it fancy. Dress my lures up. I usually just put some dots on them, and just adds a little flash, you know, makes them look better. You know, do the fish like it? I mean, probably not, but you know, make your stuff look good. There's no sense in making yours look like everybody else's. That means don't do yours just like mine. But anyways, the way I do that is I use these oil-based paint pens. You get ones that's not oil-based, it won't stay on good. But I just usually just put a few dots under the eyes. And then a few dots on the back. If I'll show up. These dry pretty fast, even though they're oil based. But I'll usually give them about 15 or 20 minutes before I go to the next step, which is epoxy coat. Now, you don't have to epoxy coat these, but if you want these eyes to stay on, you better put some epoxy coat on them, because they're going to come off. You might catch 2 or 3 bass and one will pop off, or you'll hit a tree or something and it'll pop off. That epoxy coat, put that on there, they're pretty much there. Not to mention it protects your powder coat that much more and just makes your whole lure look that much more glossy. So it's a step that I recommend. Don't have to do it, but like I've been saying, go the extra mile, make your stuff look good, make it stand out from the crowd. Alright, once your paint's dried, it's time to put the epoxy coat on. What I use is DevCon 2-ton epoxy. If you can't find it at Lowe's or Home Depot, you can get it on Amazon. Relatively cheap. I've tried 2 or 3 other brands, and a lot of times they'll get kind of tacky. Like the mix doesn't do very well. But I'd highly recommend finding some of this to do on your baits. You just squirt you some out. It don't take a whole lot. Your work time isn't very long, so you don't want to put a whole bunch out because it's going to end up hardening up before you can actually paint your baits with it. You can go to Walmart or some art store and get you a big bag of these real cheap paint brushes. What I use is the other end, and I found if you mix this stuff, mix it for 30 seconds. If you don't mix it long enough, it won't get a good bond. It'll kind of be tacky. It won't ever cure all the way. So make sure you mix it. Count 30 seconds real slow. Alright, once you mix it, turn your paintbrush around. Go ahead and start putting it on your lure. I start down around the hook eye and work my way down. Alright, we're all epoxy coated now. I'm going to hang it upside down. If you're really pushing it, I mean, it's going to harden pretty quick, but it won't cure until about, I'd say 8 hours. I usually let them sit basically a whole day before I try to mess around with skirting it. That's the next step, skirt, and then we'll be done with this sucker. Alright guys, now that you got your bladed jig epoxy coated, it's ready to do the fun part, putting skirt on. This is where you can get super creative, do whatever color combinations you want. Typically I do 3.5, maybe 4 tabs per lure. Next step, we're going to pick out our tabs. This lure, it's black with blue spots, and of course it has a copper blade. So what I'm going to do is just a typical black and blue skirt on it. I'm going to make it look good. I'm going to show you how to do it. And then we're going to tie it up. Alright, once you get your skirts picked out, you want to make sure all your strands are separated on each skirt, and then lay them down in top of each other with what order you want them to be in. I end up going with one textured skirt. I'm doing 3.5 tabs on this one, which will be about like a 4 tab skirt because that textured skirt is so bulky. Alright, you want to lay them down somewhere and get them kind of even. And what I ended up doing, I don't use collars. I like to hand tie mine with wire. I ended up going to Home Depot and finding these little bitty O-rings that are almost perfect size. I forgot what size they were, and I don't have the package anymore, but if you go look at them, you'll be able to tell which ones you'll probably need. And then I use this little spreader tool. You put your O-ring on there, you spread it out, and put it in the first little slot to lock it down. So now you got a gap that you're going to slide your skirt through. I don't know if I'm going to be able to do this without using my knees. I usually put this tool between my knees so I can pull all the tabs through and keep them halfway even. Like that. And once you do that, you can go ahead and squeeze your little pliers and then release them, and then take the pliers off the O-ring, leaving the O-ring on your skirt tabs. And get all my tabs halfway lined up even, and take some scissors and cut those tabs off. Make sure they all get cut and they're all separated. Alright, so now it's time to install the lure. Because I got these blue dots on the back of my jig, I want the blue part of the skirt to be on that side too. That's one thing you got to think of before you just start jamming your lure in there. Go ahead and kind of flip your skirt over and kind of get your strands where you want them to be. Alright, then you're going to find the center of it and stick your hook in. Stick it! Just until it gets past your O-ring, and push it down. Alright, so now we got everything, we're pretty happy with it. What we're going to do, I use this wire right here. I got this at Lowe's. It is galvanized steel wire. It's 24 gauge. What I do is I take me about, I don't know, 4 inches maybe, snip it off. I go ahead and find the middle of it and put a U bend in it. And I go hook side. You see that? Start on the hook side. I'm going in above your O-ring. So you're going to come to the back of the lure. I'm going to wrap it around, back to the hook side again. And when I get here, I'll take some pliers and I'm going to pull it up, and this gets it tight. You don't have to like pull it up like crazy, but you want it to be snug. Alright, and once you get to that step, you can go ahead and roll your O-ring down, because you got your wire tight. It's going to hold everything in place, because your O-ring kind of get in your way. Alright, now I'm going to wrap it one more time to the back. And I'm going to give it a little twist. Just with my fingers, maybe 2 or 3 times. And I'm going to take my pliers and finish it up. And one thing you really got to be careful with right here is to not over tighten it. Because if you can get this wire too tight and it'll end up breaking your strands. You don't want to do that. You just want to get it a little over snug. Like that. And I'm going to take the little cutting side of these pliers, and I'm going to leave maybe, man, I don't know, maybe 3/16 of an inch. Little tail on it. Snip it off. You see there's a little bit sticking up. I'm going to go ahead and take my pliers and I'm going to roll that over onto the rest of the wire. Kind of give it a little smash. Alright, that's done now. Alright, now I'm going to go ahead and cut the bottom tabs. Alright, got them all cut. Roll your O-ring all the way off the hook. Alright, now you set your jig up like it's supposed to look. Make sure everything's hanging down. I kind of take my hand and smooth all the strands down. And I go ahead and take my scissors and I cut them off all even. It ain't gotta be perfect, but let's try to make it look uniform. Look at that. That looks good, don't it? Alright. Only last thing we got to do is put on these little snaps. That's what you tie your line to. I get these from Lure Parts. These are Duo Lock snaps, 3 to 40 pound. They can kind of be a pain in the butt sometimes. I'm sure the camera's not going to zoom in on it very good or focus on it. They come snapped. You go ahead and unsnap it. and you got this one little part that's kicked up, what I like to do, I figured out is easiest to do, is go ahead and take your pliers and try to make that curve a little bit closer to itself. That way it allows it to go through the bladed jig better, because the holes in the jig aren't as big as that little thing is wide. Alright, so now you got your 2 holes in your jig, your blade I mean. You're going to go ahead and feed it through. Starting with the one closest to the hook eye. You go up, and you got to push the bottom one back in the top hole. Just like that. And just push it over to where it locks. And there you have it. Bladed jig. Ready to catch some bass.